Om Namah Shivaya, Shivji Sada Sahai. Om Namah Shivaya, Guruji Sada Sahai. Under the shelter of His grace, Satsang of Brigadier Retired Alag. We came under Guruji's Sharan in August 1998. I had been posted at Jalandhar from 1975 to 1984 and resided near Guruji's Mandir, but it was only in 1998 that he ordained that his blessings fall on me. I came to Guruji that year, and since then there has been no looking back. In 1998, we were planning the marriage of my only son, who was in Dubai. Guruji asked me to bring my son's and the girl's photos, and he blessed these. Subsequently, my son's marriage took place in March 1999, and it was as if Guruji had thrown a protective cover around all functions. I had just built my house in Noida and was short of money. But thanks to Guruji's blessings, the marriage functions went on well. The reception was held in Taj Hotel, Delhi. The official photographer covering the function was impressed. He remarked that he had covered over 500 weddings as a photographer in Delhi, and a brawl was inevitable, as in Punjabi weddings, liquor flows freely. But during my son's party, everything went smoothly. After another function held at Vasant Continental Hotel, a few relatives were on their way to Noida when the minibus carrying them broke down. The ladies were wearing heavy jewelry, and it was midnight, but everyone reached home safe. Only the kind Supreme Power Guruji could see to their safety. Getting 10-year family visas for US. My son is a telecom engineer, and though he was in Dubai, he was not happy there. I would occasionally tell Guruji about this, and he'd ask me not to worry. My son and his wife were visiting India in January 2000. I went to a satsang at Guruji's place on 10th January and carried 4 visas forms duly filled for myself, my wife, and son and daughter-in-law. I told Guruji that the children were coming from Dubai at midnight the same day and that we would be going to the US Embassy in the morning for visa interviews. Guruji just said, Tera kalyan kar ditta. You have been blessed. It was a drawn out process. After all the formalities were completed at a window outside the embassy, one had to stand in a queue inside. Next, a senior counselor did a preliminary check and turned each applicant over to an interview. In the queue, I was in front, followed by my wife, my son, and daughter-in-law. When I reached the counselor and gave him all 4 passports, he asked me if I was Mr. J.S. Alag. I told him I was Brigadier Alag. He asked me if it was my girlfriend who was standing behind me. I feared she was my wife. It seemed as if Guruji was sitting there at the council as the counselor talked in a manner similar to his. Would I like a 10-year visa? The counselor inquired. I asked whether he would give that to all 4 of us, and he said yes. He told me to go to window number 1, meant for persons approved for a 10-year visa. Getting a visa for my son, who was a young engineer, was then impossible, but we all got a 10-year each visa. At night, we went to Guruji. He said, Ho gaya kam? Is your work done? We touched his feet. It was a miracle. Saved from a car accident in US. My son with his wife and our grandson went to the US and on HI visa in to the US on an HI visa in July 2004. He was located as Los Angeles then. My wife also joined them in September 2004 for a short visit. She kept a photo of Guruji in our son's car as days before she had left. Guruji had so instructed us. That month, I went for a satsang at Guruji's ashram in Jabalpur, and when I returned, my clothes were full of his fragrance. I changed my clothes and again smelled the clothes. They had an unusually strong fragrance. I went to sleep. In the morning, on waking up, as was my usual practice, I phoned up my wife. My son took the call and told me that they had a terrible car accident. At a traffic crossing, their car had collided with another, but they were all safe. The car was a write-off. My wife said the collision had been so severe that our grandson, who was in the baby seat tied at the rear, was thrown out of his seat and landed in the arms of my wife, sitting next to him. She says she kept her eyes closed and dared not see if the child was all right. When she opened her eyes, the baby smiled at her and she thanked Guruji for saving their lives. On my next visit to a satsang at Empire Estate, I narrated this incident to Guruji. He smiled and asked me to sit down. He knew what had happened. My own near accident in May 2006. We were invited to dinner by a friend, and while we were returning home, I was about to take a U turn when a speeding car rushed onto us. It must have been doing at least 150 kilometers an hour. I immediately braked. At the last minute, the speeding vehicle swung clear of us, as if someone was protecting us. Had I turned completely, the car would have hit us from the rear. Even under normal circumstances, this car would have hit us from the side. I immediately thanked Guruji. Guruji's miracles keep happening. His protection is always there. Beyond Shukrana, Guruji.